There's a reason you can't sleep tonight. There's a reason you've been crying without warning. There's a reason you walk into a room and feel everything before anyone says a single word. And there's a reason, a very specific reason, that the enemy has been working overtime to keep you from figuring out what I'm about to tell you. You are not one of 8 billion. You never were. I want you to hear me clearly before we go anywhere else in this message. What you are about to hear is not motivation. It is not a pep talk. It is not one of those videos that makes you feel good for 10 minutes and then leaves you exactly where you were. This is a confrontation, a holy confrontation, between what they told you about yourself and what God wrote about you before the foundations of the earth were even laid. Because somewhere along the way, somebody convinced you that you were ordinary. Somebody convinced you that the weight you carry is just stress, that the dreams that wake you up at 3 in the morning are just bad sleep, that the way you read people, the way you cry during worship, the way you feel sick in places where dark things have happened, that all of it is just sensitivity, just your personality, just you being too much. But here's what most people miss. The enemy doesn't fight what's average. He doesn't waste time on what's already defeated. The fact that there's been a war over your peace, a war over your finances, a war over your relationships, a war over your very sense of identity since you were a child, that itself is the evidence that you were never average to begin with. You were marked. Now let me tell you why I say they're terrified. And when I say they, I'm not talking about people. I'm talking about principalities. I'm talking about the forces Paul warned us about in Ephesians chapter 6. Rulers, authorities, powers of this dark world, spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. Those are the ones. And they are terrified of one thing more than anything else. They are terrified of a chosen one who remembers who they are. Because as long as you forget, they win. As long as you think you're just like everybody else, they win. As long as you keep apologizing for being different, shrinking yourself to fit in, dimming the fire in your spirit so you don't make people uncomfortable, they win. The whole strategy of hell against your life has been built on one foundation. Make sure she never finds out. Make sure he never wakes up. Make sure they live their whole life thinking they're nothing special, when in reality, they were stamped with a calling so heavy it would shake nations if it was ever fully released. Think about that for a second. Think about how much energy has been spent trying to make you small. Think about every betrayal, every closed door, every relationship that ended right when you started getting close to your purpose. Every season of depression that came out of nowhere. Every voice in your head telling you you're not enough, you're too much, you're crazy, you're behind, you're forgotten. None of that was random. That was strategy. Look at Joseph. Before he ever wore the coat, before he ever interpreted a dream, before he ever stood in front of Pharaoh and changed the destiny of an entire nation, there was already a target on his back. His own brothers couldn't stand him, couldn't stand the way he saw things, couldn't stand the way God spoke to him in his sleep. And what did they do? They threw him in a pit. They sold him. They tried to bury him so deep that nobody would ever know he existed. But you can't bury a chosen one. You can only delay them. And here's the thing about Joseph that nobody talks about. The pit wasn't a punishment. The pit was a positioning. Because if his brothers had loved him, he never would have ended up in Egypt. If he had been welcomed, he never would have ended up in Pharaoh's palace. The very rejection that almost killed him was the exact vehicle God used to fulfill what was already written about his life. So I have to ask you, what if every rejection you've experienced was actually a redirection? What if the people who walked away weren't taking something from you, they were clearing the path for what's coming? What if the family that doesn't understand you, the friends who slowly drifted away, the church that made you feel invisible, the job that pushed you out, what if all of that was God, removing the wrong people from a life that was always meant to be set apart? You weren't rejected. You were extracted. There's a difference. Rejection is something that happens to you. Extraction is something that happens for you. Rejection leaves you bitter, wondering what you did wrong, replaying old conversations in your head trying to figure out where it all fell apart. Extraction leaves you free. It might hurt while it's happening, and Lord knows it does, but on the other side of it, you start to see the hand of God where you used to only see the wound. You start to understand that the people who walked away weren't your enemies. They were assignments that had expired. And God in His mercy was not going to let you drag expired assignments into a season that required new wineskins. Joseph never went back for his brothers. He didn't have to. When the famine came, his brothers came looking for him. The very people who tried to bury him ended up bowing before him. And the most beautiful part of that whole story is that when Joseph finally revealed himself, he didn't lead with vengeance. He led with vision. He looked at them and said, "You meant it for evil, but God meant it for good." That right there is the mindset of a chosen one who has finished their formation. They no longer need to defend themselves. The God who orchestrated everything has already vindicated them. I want to talk to you about Samuel for a minute, because Samuel's story shows you something about how God deals with chosen ones from the very beginning. Samuel was a child, just a boy serving in the temple, and one night he hears a voice calling his name. He thinks it's Eli, the priest, so he runs to Eli and says, "Here I am. You called me." And Eli says, "I didn't call you. Go lie down." This happens 3 times. 3 times he hears the voice. 3 times he runs to the wrong place, looking for the source. And here's what I want you to see. The voice was God, but Samuel couldn't recognize it yet, because nobody had taught him what God's voice sounded like. He had to learn. He had to be guided into recognition. That's where some of you are right now. God has been calling you for years, since you were a child, through dreams, through that pull in your chest, through the strange synchronicities, through the way certain scriptures jump off the page and grab you, through the people who have walked into your life at exactly the right moment, with exactly the right word. He has been calling, and you have been running to all the wrong sources, looking for the answer. You ran to relationships, you ran to careers, you ran to therapy, you ran to the gym, you ran to substances, you ran to entertainment. You ran to everything except the one place where the voice was actually coming from. And the reason isn't because you're stupid. The reason is because no one ever taught you. No one ever sat you down and said, "That pull you feel, that's God. That heaviness in your spirit, that's God. That dream you keep having, that's God. That stranger who said something to you and walked away, that was God." But now you know. And once you know, the game changes. Let me tell you what the enemy is most afraid of. It's not your prayers. It's not your worship. It's not even your faith in the abstract sense. What he is most afraid of is the moment you stop asking for permission to be who God made you to be. The moment you stop trying to fit in. The moment you stop apologizing for the weight of your discernment. The moment you stop hiding the gifts because people called you weird. The moment you stand up and say, "I am not crazy. I am not too much. I am not behind. I am exactly who He said I was, and I am stepping into it, whether anyone understands it or not." That moment is the moment hell holds an emergency meeting about you. And I want you to know, I've been there. My name is George. And the reason I can speak to you about this with the fire that I'm speaking with is because I lived in confusion for years. I knew something was different about me from the time I was a kid. I would walk into rooms and feel the atmosphere shift. I would have dreams that came true weeks later. I would meet people and instantly know things about them I had no way of knowing. And instead of being celebrated, I was made to feel like there was something wrong with me. So I shut it down. I locked it up. I tried to be normal, and it nearly killed me. It wasn't until I started searching the scriptures with new eyes, looking at the lives of the prophets, the ones who were set apart, the ones who carried weight from birth, that I started to understand. The very things I thought made me broken were the very things God had placed inside me on purpose. The sensitivity, the discernment, the strange knowing, the visions. All of it was the deposit. All of it was what He put in me before I ever showed up in this world. That's why I wrote The Secret Protocol. What you just experienced was not content. It was a mirror. And mirrors demand a decision. If you are ready to go to the root, to finally understand why you think, feel, and perceive differently from everyone around you. The Secret Protocol carries the 7 keys that reveal what God placed inside you before you ever drew your first breath. Full audiobook included for every moment of your day. Plus the awakening map as a bonus. The 5 stages of spiritual awakening mapped with clarity, showing where you are right now and what the Spirit is releasing in this season. Link pinned in the first comment. Not for much longer. And you did not make it to the end without a reason. Now let's keep going, because there's something else you need to hear. You ever wonder why you don't fit anywhere? You don't fit with the crowd that just wants to chase money. You don't fit with the crowd that lives for the weekend. You don't fit in most churches because they're either too shallow or too rigid. You don't fit in your own family sometimes. You sit at the dinner table and feel like an alien dropped off at the wrong house. And for years you tried to figure out what was wrong with you. Why can't I just enjoy what everyone else enjoys? Why can't I just want what everyone else wants? Here's the answer. You weren't built for the field everyone else was planted in. Look at Elijah, the man called fire down from heaven. He confronted 450 prophets of Baal by himself. He was the most powerful prophet of his era. And right after his greatest victory, what happens? He runs into the wilderness, sits under a tree, and asks God to take his life. The man is exhausted. He's depressed. He thinks he's the only one left. He thinks nobody understands him. He thinks the whole thing has been for nothing. Does that sound familiar to anybody? The chosen don't get exempted from the dark night. In fact, they often live in it longer than most. Because the depth of your calling is directly proportional to the depth of the wilderness you have to walk through. The bigger the assignment, the harder the formation. And what most people would call a breakdown, God is actually using as a breakthrough. He is stripping away everything that doesn't belong to your real identity, so that when you finally step into your purpose, there's nothing fake left in you. If you're tired right now, you're not failing. You're being refined. If you feel alone right now, you're not abandoned. You're being separated. If you feel like nothing is moving right now, you're not stuck. You're being prepared. And here's what happened next in Elijah's story that I want you to grab hold of. God didn't rebuke him for being tired. He didn't lecture him. He didn't tell him to suck it up and get back to work. The Bible says an angel came and made him food. Twice. Let him sleep. Let him eat. Took care of his body before he ever spoke to his spirit. And then, after Elijah was strengthened, God led him to a cave. And in that cave, the voice came. Not in the wind, not in the earthquake, not in the fire, but in a still, small voice. A whisper. That's how God speaks to chosen ones in the wilderness. Not in spectacle, in whisper. And if you've been waiting for some grand sign before you believe what he's been saying to you in your private place, you're going to miss the very moment of breakthrough. He's already been speaking. You just have to get quiet enough to hear it. There is a difference between delay and denial, and the enemy will work overtime to make you confuse the two. Because if he can convince you that God has forgotten about you, you'll quit right before the doors open. That's his whole game. Get you to walk away one season before the manifestation. Get you to give up one prayer before the answer. Get you to settle for less one day before the original promise comes through. Don't fall for it. Hannah waited years. Years. She wept in the temple, was mocked by another woman, was misunderstood even by the priest who thought she was drunk. But she kept showing up. And when she finally gave birth to Samuel, that one son shifted an entire nation. One promise from God is worth more than 1,000 years of human plans. Hold on. Even when it doesn't make sense. Especially when it doesn't make sense. Now here's something I want to drill into you. The enemy's biggest lie about chosen ones is this. He tells you that being chosen means being favored in the way the world defines favor. He tells you it means easy money, easy relationships, easy paths. So when your life looks like a battlefield, you start to doubt whether you were ever chosen at all. But look at every single person God set apart in Scripture. Moses had a stutter and ran from his calling for 40 years. David was anointed king and then spent over a decade running for his life in caves. Daniel was thrown into a lion's den. Paul was beaten, shipwrecked, imprisoned. Jesus himself, the most chosen of all, was rejected by his own people, betrayed by a friend, abandoned at the cross. If those are the chosen, then maybe your battle isn't disqualifying you. Maybe your battle is confirming you. You see, the world's definition of being chosen and heaven's definition of being chosen are two completely different things. The world thinks chosen means comfortable. Heaven knows chosen means commissioned. The world thinks chosen means lifted up. Heaven knows chosen means poured out. The world wants the crown without the cross. But heaven only gives crowns to those who are willing to carry the cross first. And here's the part that terrifies the powers of darkness more than anything. When a chosen one finally accepts the cross, when they stop running from the weight, stop trying to be normal, stop trying to make themselves smaller, that is when authority is released. That is when the gifts that have been dormant since birth start to activate. That is when prayers start moving things in ways you never thought possible. That is when your presence alone starts to shift atmospheres. Because a chosen one walking in their identity is not just a person. They become a vessel, a carrier, a walking testimony. And one carrier in the right place at the right time can collapse strongholds that have been standing for generations. That's why they're terrified. Because the moment you wake up, really wake up, you don't just save yourself. You start setting people free everywhere you go. Your testimony breaks chains. Your prayer life shifts your bloodline. Your obedience opens doors for people who haven't even been born yet. One chosen one, fully activated, is more dangerous to the kingdom of darkness than 1,000 lukewarm believers combined. So they fight you. They fight you hard. They fight you through people, through circumstances, through your own thoughts. They send confusion. They send distraction. They send shame about your past, so you think you're disqualified. They send pride about your gifts, so you fall into self-importance. They will try anything to stop you from standing in the full weight of who you were created to be. But they cannot stop you forever. They can only delay, and every day you choose to keep going. Every day you choose to keep praying. Every day you choose to keep believing. Even when the evidence isn't there yet, you are taking ground back. Ground they thought they had locked down for good. Let me give you something to hold on to. In the book of Jeremiah, God says to the prophet, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you." Now think about what that means. Before your parents met. Before your name was written down anywhere. Before your bloodline even understood who they were carrying. Before all of that, He knew you. He chose you. He set you apart. That means your calling is not based on your performance. It's not based on your past. It's not based on what people said about you. It's not based on the mistakes you've made. It's based on a decision God made about you in eternity, before time itself existed. And nothing that has happened in this life, no matter how dark, can cancel what was decided before this life ever began. You are not too late. You are not too damaged. You are not too far gone. You are exactly where the original blueprint said you would be. I know how heavy life has been. I know about the nights you cried into your pillow asking God why. I know about the years that felt like they were stolen. The relationships that should have worked but didn't. The opportunities that slipped through your fingers. The seasons of silence where heaven felt closed. I know. And I want you to hear me. None of it canceled what God said about you. Not 1 second of it. He uses every single piece. The detours, the setbacks, the mistakes, the wasted years that you swear should have disqualified you. He weaves all of it into the very testimony that He's going to use to set thousands of people free through your life. The chosen don't have clean stories. They have redemption stories. And redemption is only powerful because of what it had to redeem. Now I want to close by speaking directly to the part of you that is afraid this isn't really for you. The part that hears all of this and thinks, that sounds beautiful for someone else, but not for me. I've done too much. I've failed too many times. I've doubted too long. I've been silent too long. Surely God has moved on by now. He hasn't. Heaven does not give up on chosen ones. Ever. The reason you can't shake this pull, the reason you can't fully give up, no matter how many times you've tried to walk away, the reason you keep finding yourself watching videos like this one, that is not coincidence. That is grace. That is mercy. That is the Father reaching for you again, one more time, saying, I haven't forgotten. I never forgot. Come home. So, whatever it is you need to do tonight, pray that prayer. Write that name down. Repent of that thing. Forgive that person. Start that journal. Open that Bible you've been avoiding. Do it. Don't wait for a better day. Don't wait until you feel more ready. The chosen never feel ready. The chosen just say yes, and then they discover that heaven was already waiting on them all along. Before you go, I need you to do something for me. In the comments below, I want you to write this exact phrase, I am chosen, and I am awake, and then tell me one specific thing in your life that finally makes sense after watching this video. One specific thing, not a general comment. Something real, something only you would know. Because I read every single one, and I pray over them. And the moment you write it down, you're not just leaving a comment. You're making a declaration in the spirit realm. And declarations move things. You did not click this video by accident. You were summoned to it. Now go live like you finally know it.